I mean, I done told y'all them PG Lang boys move like the CIA, right? So anytime there's intel coming out of that camp, the streets pause and open their ears. And in this case, right, let's point to this one Rolling Stones article. Apologies, folks. I'm not going to do a lot of cropping on this one, so read around and just read around. But anyway, Rolling Stone writes how Kendrick Lamar tapped in the spirit of LA to make GNX, and they tapped in with certain key collaborators, particularly Soundwave, you know what I'm saying, the acclaimed producer who's had a really good year. And they said Soundwave and other key collaborators take us inside the makings of the rap superstar's latest Grammy-nominated classic. Before I continue, I just want to point out that there were pictures to go along with this article on the World Wide Webs. And look who on the left, the biggest gangster in the music business, Taylor Swift, right? Obviously, Taylor's connected to Cenk Anthoff, am I saying that name right? Who I know put some touches on records like Euphoria, you know, etc. But anyway, let's get into this. Not really going to do too much of a deep dive because I want y'all to go read, get to reading, then just get to reading. But anyway, one of the few things I want to point out, apparently the foundation for this album was laid in late 2022 and early 2023. I, amongst other folks, thought maybe the working of this album happened a lot later, you know what I'm saying? Post-battle, during battle, but apparently they started earlier, meaning Kendrick and his team are always working. Now, this is past Mr. Morale and Big Stepper. The way I look at it, though, on top of, you know, maybe wanting to take the commercial crown or whatever, not that Kendrick hasn't been successful commercially, but you get the point. I think maybe coming off of Mr. Morale and Big Stepper is a very heavy project. Kendrick immediately might have been like, all right, I got that out. Let me try to do a little bit of fun stuff to kind of ease even my, you know, inner peace. Because that's a lot. Mr. Morale, Big Steppers, you ask anybody doing some inner work, sometimes you need a good night out. So maybe that's what's going on there. And I think that's what made it easy for me also to predict that, hey, I told y'all GNX is going to be one of Kendrick's most fun projects. So there's a lot of theories and conversations going on around the date on this. So I'm going to let y'all in the comments chat about it, right? Let's get into a few more things specifically about the songs. I remember I told you about Cenk Antonoff, you know, they say here, you know, Soundwave, who oversaw the bulk of GNX project, along with co-producer Taylor's, you know, because the first two songs recorded were Squabble Up and Man at the Garden. So that's nice to know. I believe they also talked about Nas giving, I believe in another excerpt, they talked about Nas giving his, you know, approval on that record because, you know, it interpolates, well, not interpolates, I guess we can call it that, one mic. Whatever, you get the point. Now, as your resident Luther hater, I do want to say, I recognize, as usual, the success of the song, how commercially appealing it is. But one thing that was very interesting to hear was that Luther wasn't actually intended to be a full song, right? It started off as an interlude. How does this help my agenda? I don't know. But anyway, yeah, Soundwave says there were no drums. It was literally me just chopping and sampling, Dot just humming melodies, which makes sense. 7, drop it like it's hot. That makes sense. I can see how that's just somebody humming. But anyway, you see the rest here. Shout out to Soundwave, though, who has a better ear than me and says, I knew this had to be bigger. Right? He's like, I knew this had to be, and he was right, because it was one of the more dominating tracks on radio and streaming this year. They talk about Hey Now a little bit here, but I want to move on to some other stuff. Now, this one, I think it says everyone knew right away that TV Off was it. Yeah. Now, the part about saying the mustard part, why does no one have specifically like the anime contribution there, unless you're trying to say there was. I know there was an anime contribution, but okay, whatever. The other one contribution obviously was California Love, one of my interns, and then someone else. I believe, who was it that pointed that out? God, I forgot his name. Someone else pointed that out. That wasn't a California Love video, but yeah, that was cool. Now this, I dig. They talk about Hard Part 6, but Whacked Out Mural being a Kendrick thing that he just woke up at 6 a.m. and did it. Yeah, that record feels like he woke up and was like, yesterday somebody wiped out my mural. That you know, sometimes when you do intros to project, sometimes people do intro first. This is one of those, I feel the intro was the last thing to get done. I'm so serious. Or one of the last few things to get done. And yeah, Kendrick waking up at 6 a.m. and just randomly going in the studio and just laying that down sounds about right. I like that they gave Dodger Blue some love here, because I feel like Dodger Blue is probably the most underrated song on that project, right? I want to scale to one more song here. And yes, my agenda. Y'all know I love the self-titled song, GNX. A lot of y'all hate the beat. I will justice for GNX. But anyway, they talk about Peekaboo, which I think Peekaboo's gotten the love it deserved. They got to shine at the Super Bowl. But anyway, they talk about how this is how Kendrick wanted to link up with these younger artists that he respects coming up, you know what I'm saying? And how he believes in them, want them to shine. So that's dope. I just feel like y'all should stop hating on the self-titled song GNX, man. Except for maybe the third verse, but a lot of y'all, it's so weird. Some of you like that third verse from Young Threat more than it's weird. I think Peso and Jay Hitter was booming on that, right? But anywho, I think I covered most of it. You should go read the article. Support your journalists, guys. This was a nice little insight. And I think once you get Grammy season coming up, I think that's why you see a group, or I should say a label like PG Lane, who really doesn't give much information, do some type of press releases, right? Because it is going to be one of the albums that's going to be in the running for a lot of Grammys. So they care, right? So they want to make sure that the committee and the general audience is familiar with the process to making that project. So I think this is good insight to show the committee and show people. And I also think it's good insight for the fans, right? CIA, and they're just giving you something.